Our lives are full of activities, demands, surprises, routines. Every day brings change. Some are spectacular and others are not. Change is a constant part of our lives. We love change. We hate change. From birth to death, life itself is change. And there's no way of stopping it, no matter how much we try. Now, the 20th century can be an overwhelming place for some people. Every day we're constantly bombarded by sights and sounds and information at a rate unknown to previous eras. You combine that with the forces of industrialization, mass production, urbanization, and an exploding population, and it's hard not to feel a little overwhelmed. Sometimes, all we want the world to do is stop, even if just for a moment, so we can catch our breath, to sit back and collect our thoughts, to not worry about anything before getting started again. We can't stop change from happening. We must constantly be adjusting to it. The trick is to be able to do that without feeling overwhelmed, without feeling completely powerless. Since we can't stop change from happening in our lives, we can begin to deal with it by using one of the most powerful tools that we have. You use it every day. It's the power of choice, the ability to direct your life. And no one can take that away from you, ever. I'm Dr. Gordon Hasick. Welcome to Choices, a program about possibility and hope for our future.
I think the term choices is an interesting one. On the other hand, I'm very aware I live in a society where I am constantly making choices. You know, where do I park my car when I come up here? How do I find this place? Do I stop for coffee on the way up there? Do I take this glass of water? I mean, choices are just endemic in our kind of society, and they are stressful quite often. And often, having made a choice, we try to make believe we didn't make it or try to get out of it. So I think choices is a very, very comprehensive term. I also recognize that most people are not consciously aware of making choices moment by moment. And so to make a film that puts choices in big headlines and says, hey, you're watching this and you're making choices moment by moment. And hey, are you sure the choices you're making are the ones that really give your life joy and satisfaction? If you're a questioning person or beginning to say, hey, I wonder about the choices I'm making. Are there other choices? Hey, this is a film for you.
Our greatest power is the power upon which all other powers are based. It's our greatest freedom. It's the freedom on which all other freedoms are based. It's the core. Next to life itself, it's our greatest gift, the power to direct that life.
If each one of us were to take the responsibility of changing ourselves, we will have a much better world to live in. It sounds naive and it sounds simplistic, but it's a powerful statement.
Some of the people we interviewed talked about how the ability to make choices is the first step towards freedom in our lives. And if we give up that right to choose, we lose our sense of self. We miss out on opportunities, and we lose the joy that comes from living fully. So how do we go about making choices? What's the best way to confront the thousands of decisions that we're confronted with every day? That's the topic of this program. And as you'll see, there's no one right answer, but there are some guidelines. By making choices, we start to direct our lives, instead of leaving it up to someone else to do for us.
It was something that my grandfather taught me as a very little. He says, you listen. Allow the possibility of everything, but then you do think. Because he said the only tool you have, it is your mind. We don't have any other choices. This is where the choices begin, inside of your mind. Grandfather taught me other thing, and he said, you are the only thinker in your mind. So that means I have a control. If everything was a thought at first, everything. This is one theory. I believe in it. So everything was a thought at first. That's great to know. But then if I know I am the only one that thinks in my mind, I have the choice. This is where the choice comes. Comes from ability to think. So I can think this way or I can think that way.
Our lives are filled with choice, all of the time. But there's sometimes we want to make a choice and we can't. Something stops us. Choices is a series about hope, but this particular program is about fear, the fear of making choices. Fear guides us more than we realize. It's an emotion that we've gotten so used to that we don't even recognize it. But what's one way to notice it? Well, that's to start observing ourselves. But how do we go about doing that? What's the best way to observe that fear inside and figure out the best way to use it to our advantage? Well, that's the topic of this program. And as you'll see, there's no one right answer, but there's some guidelines. We can start relying less on this emotion and start to live the lives that we really want. By observing how much fear guides us, we can start to make the choices that really count for us.
There's so much fear in choice. And I don't think most people are willing to talk about that. But do you realize if you made a choice to live your life in some way that's different than you have been for 20, 30, 40 years, how much fear is attached to that? I mean, yes, if you're desperate, sure, the choice to change because it's already bad or filled with fear. But what if you're not filled with fear? What if it's just kind of ho-hum? And you realize that you have a choice to make your life different. I think people have to acknowledge that takes guts. That takes courage. People need to be prepared for what that's going to take.
Once you realize choices can be made, it can transform your life. It's the first step on the road towards freedom. It puts us back in the driver's seat. It's challenging and it takes effort, but the benefit is a life filled with possibility and hope for our future. Thank you for watching. I'm Dr. Gordon Hasick.